Big Podcast.
A true music business story for you. You know this if you listened to this podcast before. I had years and years, about 25 years, with my company, musicmarketing.com, and I still do a lot of music business work. I'm doing a launch right now at a radio station. And one of the things about radio stations is if there's a band that wants you to play their music, they will pull out all the stops to get your attention. So Independence Day for the United States, that was recently. These guys have got a huge tie-in with the song like Freedom or Fireworks or I don't know. I wasn't paying that close attention to the song, but I did pay close attention to what they sent to get people to pay attention to the song. Not me. I just happened to see it there. I was like, man, that thing is huge. It was about 3 feet tall, 2 feet wide, and it was this big package of fireworks called Total Domination. And it was hundreds of dollars, I'm sure. And it had the band's name on it and played the song or CD stuck to it, or I don't know what it was. But anyway, I've had a lot of stuff sent to me over the years. Somebody one time sent me a full-on tombstone, and it had the name of the band. I think it said something like, I'm Not Dead Yet. And also a CD in there, or however they wanted me to play it. Maybe a cassette. You know, back in the day, I was working music for a long time, and we would get cassettes, we would get CDs, whatever people had. Nowadays, I don't know, download card, they're probably giving you a CD. I mean, I've been in situations where, no joke, they would send a CD player along with the CD to make sure you could listen to their music. Something to think about for getting people to pay attention to your podcast, perhaps. We'll talk a little bit more about podcasting freedom here on this episode. It's Build a Big Podcast, a marketing podcast for podcasters. If you want to grow your podcast, get more people to your podcast, make more money with your podcast, you are in the right place. My name is David Hooper. BigPodcast.com is the website. This is the audio edition of my weekly newsletter called Big Podcast Insider. You will find it at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue number 240, and this is what we're talking about. Podcast freedom. How Starbucks uses psychological triggers. 3 types of interview questions. How to put teeth in your podcast. Hit and run guest. This episode of Build a Big Podcast is brought to you by Riverside.fm, a virtual studio that makes recording and editing at the highest quality possible accessible to anyone. You're going to look and sound your best because Riverside records you and your guests locally, bypassing poor or unstable internet connections and giving you studio quality audio and video. I mentioned working at radio stations. I've done it for years. And one of the things that radio stations used to do, and also networks, I've actually had NPR show up at my house and do one of these. They called it a double-ender. You would do the interview via phone, and there would be a reporter there or a technician, somebody with a microphone, holding that microphone in front of your mouth, recording your side of the conversation. You had somebody on the phone also recording into a microphone in the studio on the other end. Put the 2 recordings together, boom! Sounds like you're in the studio. You don't have to go to that much work, not when you've got Riverside.fm. Again, studio quality recordings, not only audio, but also video. You're going to look and sound like you're in the same room. In fact, if you're doing video, 4K video resolution. Is your face made for that? Mine is not, but my voice is. And that's why I want to sound as good as possible. You're going to sound as good as possible with Riverside.fm. I want you to go there right now. Check it out. They're going to need a couple of hours of look under the hood, kick the tires, do an interview or 2. Get an episode in, man. Do it. See how it works for you. You can do that for free at Riverside.fm. Get that free account. If you like it, you can stick around for one of the paid plans, and I've got a discount code for you. It's Big Podcast, BIGPODCAST. That's Riverside.fm. Go there right now and get your free account. If you want that discount, it's 15% off. Here's the code, Big Podcast, BIGPODCAST. All right, let's do it. I'm going from thing to thing to thing, all of them about podcasting. And since it can get confusing, you're going to hear this sound in between each of these things. Got it? Let's go. Podcasting freedom. Talking about Independence Day at the beginning of this episode. Independence Day or not, it's a good time to ask yourself, are you really free? I'm not talking politically. I want you to think about whether you're putting out the podcast that you really want to. 3 questions for you. 1, if I had enough money, energy, and time, what would I walk away from right now? What do you not like about your podcast? And because you're walking away from something, that means you're walking towards something else. Think about, what would you want to walk toward? Maybe you don't like editing. Okay, walk away from it and walk toward an editor. That's question number one. If you had enough money, energy, and time, what would I walk away from right now? And what would I walk toward? Question number two, what stories am I telling myself about my success with podcasting, and which of these stories are rooted in fear instead of fact? Let me tell you how this can show up. Oh, I need a new mic. If only I had this new mic, more people would listen to my podcast. The answer, maybe. Yeah, if you're using tin can and a string now, yeah, a mic's going to help you out. But if you're using a pretty good mic, I don't know, $70 Audio-Technica ATR 2100 or a $50 or $60 Samsung Q2U, you're probably good when it comes to audio quality. Is it the best? No. Is there room to grow? Yes, absolutely. But is it good enough to get your message across? Yeah, it is. But that's a story that we tell ourselves when we don't have as much listeners as we want. We say, oh, if only I spent a little bit more money, got this piece of gear, did this thing, then I would have the listeners that I wanted. That's fear, man. Maybe it's you. Maybe you just need a different guest. Change to a different format. I talked about that on the last episode. I may be changing up some formats on this podcast. It's normal to do that. You get burnout, your listeners get burnout. That's question number two. What stories am I telling myself about my success with podcasting, and which of these stories are rooted in fear instead of fact? Question number three. What does a push forward look like if I'm aligned with ease, clarity, and self-worth? How can I begin that now, even in a small way? Small hinges, big doors. What's the saying? The journey of 1,000 steps starts with one step. You get the idea. Got to start somewhere. What's the one thing that you can do now to make your podcast better? Maybe it's spending 10 more minutes on doing prep. Maybe it's doing prep at all. So many people, press the red button. They start chatting. No. 10 minutes of prep is going to make that podcast 10 times better. Pre-interviews. Talking to your guest ahead of time, getting to know that guest, writing down your thoughts, maybe getting thoughts from the guest. What do you want to cover? What's going to make this interview a success for you? True story. I've got an interview tomorrow morning. I've been working pre-interviews with her all week. Today she's gotten a couple texts and emails. I'm going to work on it more this evening. That's what pre-interviewing looks like, and it makes your interviews better. That's what a push forward looks like. Those little things that you can do to make the process of recording, editing, and promotion that much better. If I can help you, let's talk. The best way for any podcasters to work with me, I call it Big Podcast Amp. The second best way, one of my books on podcasting, I don't know, $12.95, $15. It's on Amazon. I've got them linked, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue number 240. Hey, let's talk about Big Podcast Amp. I just mentioned it. If you like the newsletter, if you've read the books and you like that, you want something a little bit deeper, this is how to do it. It's called Big Podcast Amp, AMP. It stands for Audio Monetization Program. It's a personal coaching program, and it's going to help you do three things. One, grow your podcast audience. Two, get people talking about your podcast. And three, make more money with your podcast and your podcasting skills. I've got all the details. It's at bigpodcast.com/amp. That's bigpodcast.com/AMP. How Starbucks uses psychological triggers. I've got a list of these. You will find them linked, newsletter.bigpodcast.com, issue number 240. I want to talk about three of them. I think you're going to relate to these. The von Restroff effect. An example of that, writing your name wrong, it's going to make it stand out, and it encourages social sharing and free advertising. How many times have you seen a Starbucks cup? It's got the wrong name, wrong pronunciation, wrong spelling. My wife, when I go to something like Starbucks with her, she uses my name, David, D-A-V-I-D. People don't mess it up. People mess her name up all the time. She's not playing, but plenty of people do. The customization effect, this is another thing that Starbucks does. When you allow for endless small choices, that increases attachment and perceived control. You've probably seen this in movies. Maybe you've experienced it if you've been in line at a Starbucks. People say, I want this and then that and then this and soy milk and no foam and, half the vanilla. I don't go to Starbucks, but I've seen people talk about this, and I've seen it in movies enough to know that this is a thing. Endless customization. There's a billion ways to make a drink at Starbucks. You've got your way. Your friends have their ways. You probably talk about it. Another social media moment maybe. And that gets you attached. It's a custom thing. They make it just the way you want it. But you've got to be careful with this. While some people say they want custom, too many choices exhaust people. A brand new person, they don't even call small, medium, large at Starbucks. I've been there. I've asked for a medium, and they say, "Oh, you mean a grande?" I was like, "Wait a minute, isn't a grande like big?" I'm sure I'm getting that wrong, but I can't ask for a small without somebody correcting it. This is one reason for you to give a single option. You will hear me do this when I ask people to subscribe to this podcast, including you, by the way. Here's how to do it. There's one button for iPhone, one button for Android, one button for an RSS feed. I do not tell you, go to Spotify and look up this, and then go to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and look up this, and then go to Google, look up this, and then go to Pod America and look up this, and then go to Pod Canada and look up this. I don't give you a million ways to do it. I say, what kind of phone you got? You say, I got an iPhone. Okay, cool. Here's the iPhone button. The only reason I've got RSS is because podcasters know what RSS is. Some of you guys get nerdy on this stuff. You want an RSS feed. If this was a consumer podcast for people who are not into podcasting, I wouldn't mention RSS feed. And yes, I know in order for something to be a podcast, it has to come through RSS. Yeah, got it. I get it. You don't need to educate your listeners on that. You don't need to mention RSS feed unless they are podcasters who know what an RSS feed is. People just want to listen to your stuff, man. They want to say, boop, power button. Oh, how loud do I want this? Turn it clockwise for louder. Turn it counterclockwise for softer. Make it easy. So customization effect, yeah, it's a good thing. It works for Starbucks, but keep it limited. Think like a subdivision, one of these planned communities. Do you want black cabinets or do you want white cabinets? Do you want brick or do you want stone? My mom used to do this when I was a kid. She wanted me to make choices and she was training me how to do this. David, do you want milk or do you want water? It wasn't, do you want soda? And if it was soda, it wasn't, do you want Pepsi, 7-Up, or do you like Coke products, David? We've got Coke and Pepsi here. It wasn't that, but there was a choice there because she wanted me to get used to making decisions. And I was like 2 or 3. Unfortunately, some people, because they didn't have a mother like that, they're not used to making decisions. We got to keep it simple for them. Do you want black cabinets or do you want white cabinets? Customization effect, it works for you until it doesn't. Be careful with it. Sunk cost fallacy, that's number 3. The more people invest, the more committed they become. It's true for podcasts. How many times have you gotten 100 episodes in, 50 episodes in, 10 episodes in, and thought, I'm not really feeling this podcast. Maybe I should change the name of my podcast. But I got 100 episodes of this already. I don't want to start from scratch. Maybe you're doing it with your relationship. Oh man, I've been married 10 years. I'm not really happy, but I can't get divorced and start over now. We do this all the time. We definitely do it with our podcast, and listeners do it with us too. It's much harder for somebody to unsubscribe and find something else to listen to than keep listening. By the way, something related to podcasting and also Starbucks, listening to podcasts or going to Starbucks, that can be an act of self-care. It's something that you do nice for yourself. There's a bougie coffee shop down the street from where I am. 6:15 in the morning, these guys are lined up out the door. 6:15 p.m., lined up out the door. It's called La La Land Coffee. I don't get it, but I do get wanting to be nice for yourself. It's an act of self-care, maybe addiction to caffeine. That's number 4. Bottle your podcast up with an addictive drug. But dopamine, right? That's an addictive drug. Are you taking care of your listeners through your podcast? Okay, cool. They're going to come back for that. And once they're in, it's much harder for them to find something else than it is for them to keep listening to your podcast. Here's the bottom line here when it comes to self-care. What you were doing, it's never just a podcast. It's an opportunity for listeners to connect with each other, have a moment for themselves, learn something, do something nice for themselves. If you want this whole list of psychological triggers, also a graphic for one of them, I've got all that, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue number 240. 3 types of interview questions. This is always funny to me. If I tell somebody I've got an interview, they assume that I'm on a job interview. Oh, what kind of job are you going for? No. I'm interviewing someone for a podcast or for radio. And the same thing almost always happens to you when you search for interview questions on Google. You're likely going to get a lot of questions that you would get asked in a job interview. And sometimes they work for podcasts too. I'm going to talk about some of these. 3 types of questions. There's pre-interview questions, There are the actual interview questions, things you ask when you're recording. And there are also some fun novelty questions. I'm going to dive into all three of these. The pre-interview questions, I talked about this a minute ago, how important a pre-interview is. Get the pre-interview done. Even if it's just 10 minutes, it's going to make your podcast 10 times better. Here are some things that you can ask people when you're doing a pre-interview. One, why do you want to be on this show? That's maybe the pre-interview when somebody pitches you. Tell me why you want to be on this show. Let's get right down to it. And don't lead them in, but you're looking for things like they connect with you, they connect with the audience, they connect with the topic that you're talking about. What do you know about this show? You're not grilling them, but what do you know about it? Find out what they like, what they don't like about it. What would make this a great interview for you? Yeah, you're in charge. Yeah, it's your podcast. But if you can do a win-win, it would be great if we could talk about blank. And if you like blank, oh, great. That's going to work for me too. Throw them a bone. Tell me something about yourself that I can't find on Google. What is something that you want to get out there? Who do you admire? What's a reason that I shouldn't interview? If I were to ask your friends 3 words to describe you, what would they be? What are the biggest values you think your parents taught you? What do you want? Personal questions, not necessarily about podcasting, not necessarily about the topic, but those things will lead you into things that you can ask during the interview that are about the topic that you want to ask questions about. Let's talk about the actual interview questions. That's section number 2 of these types of questions. These are asked during a live show. They dig a little bit deeper and they create connection with listeners. Tell me about some people you've helped in your career. This is great when you've got some kind of coach or entrepreneur, consulting type person. If somebody like me is on your podcast, tell me about somebody that you've worked with that has had a good result doing this. I've got a story for every single one of the things that I would mention. If I talk about doing a launch, I can give you a launch story, for example. What's something you're really bad at that you wish you were good at? What's your secret superpower? What are you learning right now? What would the title of your autobiography be? When is it okay to break the rules? You're not going to ask people these questions one right after another. Let me give you an example of how to throw that last one in there. David, I read your book, Big Podcast. I really like it. You've got this plan set out for developing a big podcast. But let me ask you this. When is it okay to take that book, set fire to it, and break the rules that you have outlined in it? I got an answer for that. What have you changed your mind about? If you had a magic wand, what would you like to be known for? If you weren't getting paid for what you do, would you still be doing it? How engaged are you? I've got this whole list, by the way. It's newsletter.bigpodcast.com, issue number 240. I've got several more. You can go see them all at that link, newsletter.bigpodcast.com, issue number 240. Let's talk about some of the fun novelty questions. These are for lighter moments, energy shifts, listener engagement. Sometimes people like to do a speed round. When was the last time you wore a costume, and what was it? That could go a number of ways. Maybe I want to talk about Halloween. Maybe I'll talk about Independence Day. I dressed up like Uncle Sam. Maybe I want to talk about the last day job that I had where I wore a suit and tie. Or going to a wedding where my podcasting skills came in handy. They wanted me to get up on the mic and say something. Well, because I'm a podcaster, I was able to do that without a sweat. I was able to do that effectively to where people were coming up to me afterwards and go, man, what, do you work in this business or something? You're a public speaker? You're not trying to get people to say yes or no, or just give you an answer. With any of these questions, you're trying to weave a narrative, weave in stories, get to know them, give people good advice, get people engaged with who you're talking to. Anyway, I've got the full list. You can find it, newsletter.bigpodcast.com, issue number 240. How to put teeth in your podcast. I've got 3 steps for you to put teeth in your podcast and keep an audience coming back. I've actually got a link to a show that I think does this well. It's called Metal Shop. Back in the 80s, man, the syndicated radio show Metal Shop, or as they said, Metal Shop. Strangely enough, the only show with teeth. That was the tagline. And we're talking about teeth. 3 things that they did really well. Seamless transitions. I mean, sharp editing. They had a signature sound. If you're familiar with his show, you were probably thinking that Metal Shop. I mean, go listen to it. And you will get exactly what I'm talking about. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com, issue number 240. Really punchy voiceovers, and they move quickly between segments. They keep listeners on their toes. It's radio, a little bit different than podcasting. Podcast, we sometimes go deeper than radio. But if you can keep it fun and keep those segments engaging, get people what they need, then move on to something where they're like, whoa, man, totally engaged in this. Oh man, I'm totally engaged in this too. Then you've got to hit show. Every second should feel intentional. And in the case of Metal Shop, high energy. Now, we'll say this, when it comes to energy, I want you to think about a Frank Sinatra show. Probably not Metallica. But a lot of bands, what you will find is you've got this high energy stuff. Frank Sinatra with the big band. Then he moves into a ballad, kind of a crooner thing. And the ladies go, oh, Frankie. Then he's back into that big band. Maybe he'll tell a big joke. There's pacing on a show. Think of your podcast in the same way. Pacing. Casey Kasem knew that. He's got these upbeat numbers. Boom. Death dedication. No, you can't do that. You got to go into upbeat numbers, then ease it down into a ballad, then a death dedication, then maybe a ballad, then back into the upbeat number. You got to have your pacing in order. Seamless transitions. That's how you connect all those things. And speaking of death dedications, recurring segments. Give listeners something familiar to look forward to each week. A countdown in the case of Casey Kasem, question and answer, a mini feature, listener letter, the request and dedication. Sometimes people only want to hear this segment. I've got something on my show, Music Business Radio, called Demo Derby. We review demos sent in from around the world. Not just me, but also the guests. Can you imagine that? Richard Marx is in the studio with me, a well-known songwriter, big hits, not only just for himself, but for other people. Huge hits, and you're a songwriter, and he's going to review your stuff on the air with me. That's a moment, not only for songwriters, but also for people listening. Is he going to like it? Is he not going to like it? What's he going to say about it? Is he going to have some good advice? Is he going to be helpful? Or is he going to be mean? Now, Richard, for the record, not mean at all. He's very cool. Some people, though, a little bit mean. And as a note, we usually edit that out. I'm not here to steal people's dreams, make people feel bad, make fun of them, make listeners feel like they can't trust us or we've humiliated them. We've had a joke at their expense. But it could happen unless you heard what I just said. You don't know if it's always going to be positive because it could happen. They've been nice 50 times in a row. Maybe this is the time they're mean. You don't know, but that's a recurring segment, very popular, arguably one of the most popular segments of the entire show. You can do the same thing. Third thing I want to mention, I just talked about this when I talk about he's always been nice, reviewers have always been nice, but maybe he's going to be mean on this one. That's what we call predictability with surprise. You want to mix those things up. You've got your regular features with unexpected elements. If you're playing music, for example, maybe some deep cuts, maybe breaking news, offbeat interviews, something like those fun questions I mentioned earlier. You're a straight ahead Barbara Walters interviewing kind of guy. Joe Friday, just the facts, ma'am. Out of nowhere, you ask, boxers or briefs? No, never ask boxers or briefs. By the way, the reason I joke around about that, and it's kind of a recurring segment on this podcast, that's like the dumbest question you can ask. And so many morning jocks when they're doing interviews because they're lazy, like, oh, we got this guy coming in. Who? I don't know. Just ask him if he wears boxers or briefs. When Bill Clinton was running, this is, 94, 92? I don't know. Whenever Clinton was running for president, Bill Clinton, not Hillary Clinton. That was so common. Boxers or briefs, Bill Clinton? Who cares? What about the economy, man? What are you going to do to make my life better? I don't care what kind of underwear you're wearing. Jeez. Here's the deal. By treating your podcast like an event rather than a collection of content, I mean, really think about this. Think about that Frank Sinatra show. That thing is planned, man. Similar to Frank Sinatra, I saw something about Tony Bennett talk about his set list. He said, man, it took me years to get that thing worked out. Same set list. He knew the songs he was going to do and people loved it because they worked in that order. You can do something similar. I'm not saying don't change it up. Don't get static. But have that firm foundation that keeps people guessing and gives them something to feel up and then gives them something to think about. The highs, that upbeat number, and the low emotional numbers, the death dedication maybe. Keep people guessing, keep people feeling things. You want more thoughts on this? You want to hear that example? Metal Shop. I got it. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com, issue number 240. Hit and run guest. There are some guests who just want to hear themselves talk. They show up for your interview unprepared. They let you deal with the mess. I had a guy one time, I needed a 20-minute interview. He said, I've never done an interview less than 60 minutes. I go deep. Okay. I mean, that guy just wanted to hear himself talk. Did I use any of it? No. Did I even go 60 minutes? I don't think so. I mean, if we're taping it, sometimes I'll let people go on, but it's going to get edited because I'm looking for that meat. I'm looking for that emotional stuff that I'm talking about. The highs, the lows. Let's take listeners on a journey. Not just to hear you talk, well, I'd like to give a shout out to Bill. I grew up with Bill. I married my high school sweethearts. We got 2 kids, Gene and Joe. I love M&Ms. I love Kobe steaks. I'm a churchgoer. I'm Christian. Nobody cares. But you're going to have some people talk about that. Like they'll tell you where they went to college, went to Vanderbilt University, go Doors, anchor down. It adds nothing. I'm going to give you an aside here. This hopefully adds something. I'm watching an HGTV show with my wife. This show's taped in Nashville. We're excited about it. And when we know the street that they're working on, we're really excited. I actually looked at the house next to where this couple who does this HGTV show is living now. They could have been my neighbors. So we're thinking, yeah, we're in. This is interesting to us. It affects us. And there's a scene where this guy's trying to name his business. He's got a new design business. And he's like, well, I went over to see my mom, had to chop down a tree. So he goes over to his mom's house. He's chopping a tree down. I guess they're trying to show that he's a nice guy. He's literally on the porch for maybe 20 seconds, having a tea with his mom or something. And he's asking for advice from her on what to name the business. And she says, you've always made good decisions. Boom, cut to the next scene. It added nothing. I look at my wife and she looks at me and we're both thinking like, what the This is ridiculous. You just wasted 30 seconds or a minute of our time, man. Get to the point. That's the only reason to go long on an interview. If you're going to edit it, never, ever, ever, ever let a guest take you down that rabbit trail live. Never, ever. One more thing about hit and run guests. Guests are never too busy to use a suitable mic. Some just don't want to. Oh, man, you can fix it, man. They got that Adobe thing. Man, that'll fix it. No, it won't. Get it in camera. Get it on tape. You want what photographers would call in camera. Adobe Enhance, Isotope RX. Give it something to work with, man. Don't make it do the heavy lifting. And don't do the heavy lifting for your guests. These guys come in, blah, 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 60 minutes of them rambling. They expect you to edit. They're not going to go back. They're not going to send you any people. Who cares? They don't care. Yet ironically, those are the guys that are always going to follow up. Hey, when's that episode coming out? I know a dude, this guy had a feed of every episode he was ever on. He was doing a lot of interviews. So if he's on your podcast, he would take that podcast audio, put it in his feed. I guess this guy's thinking, people would like, 50 interviews with me. No. That's why you want your interviews to stick out. People don't want more than a few interviews with someone, with very little exception. Maybe somebody like Taylor Swift. You got those people, oh my gosh, Taylor's doing an interview again. But even Taylor knows that she can be overexposed. That's one of the reasons that so many of these guys that are really, really big, they say no to interviews. You can be overexposed. You can burn people out. Don't be part of that. Because if somebody's burnt out on someone, they're definitely not going to listen to your interview with them. More thoughts on this? Newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue number 240. Hey, thanks for hanging out, man. You want more? Okay. Yeah, I got you, man. You can subscribe for free. I've got you at bigpodcast.com. There are 3 ways to do it. Pick one. If you got an iPhone, pick the iPhone button. Android, pick the Android button. If you want a good old-fashioned RSS feed, I've got it, man. 1 click is all it takes. You can subscribe. Hang out for a little while. If you like it, keep hanging out. If you don't, move on. We will remain friends. But do subscribe now. Give it a shot. See how it works for you. Bigpodcast.com is the website. You'll see the subscribe button with those 3 options on it. And if you really want to do something with the podcast, let's talk about working together. Bigpodcast.com/amp. That's bigpodcast.com/AMP. It's the audio monetization program. I will personally work with you to grow your podcast, get more people to your podcast, and make more money with your podcast. That's at bigpodcast.com/amp, bigpodcast.com/AMP. Go there now. Do it before you forget. Subscribe, check out AMP. If I can help you out, let me know. And I'll see you in the next episode of Build a Big Podcast.